If there is one thing I have learned about 2016 is that no matter what, no matter how much we prove that the Brexiteers lied, that they made all these promises that have never been delivered upon, that even now some admit knew that they weren't even true. Farage, and of course the 350 million a week for the NHS, said that, oh, that was a completely foolish promise. They should have never have done it. But says actually to get people to vote for our side, well, it was worth lying about. you know, and not only that, Kate Hoey, we've recovered her very recently. I will say this: the worst Brexiteer out there. I think she is like the worst of the worst when it comes to Brexiteers who made promises and then, when they've been confronted with the reality, of course, of Brexit, they start crying about the consequences which they made. But shockingly, a couple of weeks ago, well, a couple of months ago now, Kemi Badenoch, when the Conservatives and the hard right of their party that backed her to say, hey, we want to get and strip all these EU regulations. We want to just completely burn them all. We want a massive bonfire, Kimmy. Assemble it there. We've got the matches. You just have to light the fire. And she turned around and said, I'm not going to be an arsonist. Because she knew what the consequences of a massive mound of regulations was. Now, we'll give her at least props for not, being an arsonist. But today, she has come out and she has now blamed Biden, of all people, for not having the much vaunted US UK Brexit trade deal, and that it's all Biden's fault. Not the fact that, if you've been following this and the exchanges that have happened multiple times, Democrats, Republicans have said time again, we ain't really interested in having a trade deal with you. It's not our highest priority. We are concerned about the ongoing issues in Northern Ireland. We have a lot of worried about that. We don't really want to open you up to sort of competition, especially when Trump and Biden themselves have become very, very protectionist and realized the benefits of protectionism, of defending your economy and keeping jobs, in the USA. They're not suddenly open to these mass, deep-reaching free trade deals. And neither should we, with the amount of jobs that we would probably lose to the US because of things like the Inflation Reduction Act, not the fact that we are already losing jobs to it. We would lose even more. But no, Kemi Badenoch doesn't see any of that, and instead insists that it is Biden who is to blame. So let's hear what her excuse and why she believes Biden is to blame for not seizing this opportunity of a US-UK trade deal. So before we do get into that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a rotation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to everyone who does help and support the channel. And you can click on the like and the share button as well. That helps out the channel as well. And of course, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. So let's have a look at what Badenoch is saying now. This comes from the BBC with the title of Badenoch blames Biden for missing post-Brexit trade targets. So, the business secretary has blamed a change in the US president for the UK's failure to hit its post-Brexit trade targets. Kemi Badenoch told MPs that Joe Biden's administration had no appetite for trade deals. This is true. This is true. They just were not interested in signing trade deals. And neither is Trump. If Trump re-wins, his administration is not going to be interested either. And neither was his administration really interested in signing a trade deal. He made a big song and dance of, oh yeah, we'll do the best deal ever. But it would still have to go through Congress. You still got Democrats who would not let this bill go through. because, again, of the issues, still ongoing issues of Northern Ireland. So she claimed that it was why the government had missed its manifesto pledge to strike deals with countries that accounted for 80% of the UK trade by the end of 2022, saying that the UK has a free trade agreement covering at least 60 of these overseas trade. Appearing before MPs on Tuesday, Badenoch said the biggest thing that had an impact on us reaching the goal was the change in administration from Trump to Biden. The Biden administration decided it was not doing trade deals with anyone, not just us. Yeah, because they have not been interested in these trade deals. Trade deals between individual countries, as we have said this thousands of times, are going out of vogue. People are much more interested now in doing big multilateral trade deals. And that's why you are seeing medium economies looking at the EU and forming together to form those big types of blocks. So she also noted that the US had moved to specific smaller deals in areas like semiconductors and craft materials that produced a change in her own strategy. But Badenoch said that it was causing her to now, quote, pivot away from free trade agreements and instead focusing on smaller memorandums of understanding, which she conceded were not based on enforceable international trade law. And again, memorandums of understanding, pointless. They mean nothing. It said, it's like, we're going to work together. But that's all it is. There's no framework of how that happens. There's no deals on the different sectors, etc. like that. Nothing. It's pointless. The memorandums of understanding that we've had from US states are absolutely worthless. They are meaningless. And yet people like Badenoch have talked them up, how fantastic they are, how wonderful they are. But again, they're just bits of paper. They mean nothing. But the business secretary did say that she was remained too confident that the UK would reach its target of hitting at least 1 trillion in exports by 2030. Again, good luck on that. Liam Bryan, the chair of the Business and Trade Select Committee, noted that the Institute for Directors and the Business Groups had estimated that meeting that goal would require an export growth of 3.5% a year. That's a massive growth in exports. Massive growth. And of course, that compares to the current forecast of 0.1% growth by the Office for Budget Responsibility, the independent fiscal watchdog. So bear in mind, to reach this lofty target of £1 trillion worth of exports by 2030, we would have to grow exports by 3.5% a year, when currently we are forecasting 0.1%. You haven't even got 1%. Yeah, there's and bear in mind, there is a reason why Conservative MPs have consistently called Kemi Badenoch a failure on this. So, when faced with questions on the UK's membership of the wider Trans-Pacific Partnership, known as the CPTPP, Badenoch refused to be drawn in on whether Britain would support China or Taiwan joining the bloc. Here's the thing. The only reason we're in that bloc is to stop China from joining, to say no to China. That's why we're there. That is very, very implicit why we're there. The fact that she would not say that when she has done so in the past and has been even expressly said by Japan in the past that that's why they wanted the UK in it, that's stupid that she's not admitting that. This also currently includes Australia, Brunei, China, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. And the UK already has trade deals with 9 of the 11 members. Bear in mind, these are not full trade deals. Most of these are rollover deals. We've only really got trade deals with New Zealand, Japan, and of course Australia. The rest of those countries are just rollover deals, with Canada, of course, cancelling their rollover deal because we are not playing ball and acquiescing to all their demands that they are making to make a full free trade deal. Because they've seen what New Zealand and Japan got. Well, not what New Zealand or Australia got, and now they want that same deal. Bear in mind, if we do that, a lot of jobs would then move to Canada. That would be very, very damaging. I have said this multiple times before when we've covered this. Trade deals matter and are going to become, once again, an integral part of our politics. When businesses start talking up, well, you did this trade deal, it is now having this consequence on our business. And to get out of that, we would have to go completely back and renegotiate those, which Canada would have a massive vice-like grip on any negotiations of positions that we might try to take. So the OBR estimates that membership of the Pacific Trade Bloc would boost the UK economic growth by 0.04% over the next 15 years. So that's absolutely nothing. In the grand scheme of things, that is nothing. Remember, we've lost 4% from leaving the EU. And yet, this was meant to be the many things to reaffirm that Brexit was a good thing. It also estimated that the UK's departure from the EU single market and custom union would mean that the UK economy would be 4% smaller than it would have been had the UK not left. Miss Badenoch stopped short of saying that the OBR was, quote, wrong, but she did say that the government took account of the OBR's estimate and that she thought its estimates were, quote, vulnerable to the changing economic circumstances and outcomes. Meaning that she believes in ifs and buts and fairies and nuts, and trade deals are going to all work out. When, again, you've had multiple people for years saying, no, these trade deals are not going to work, predicting the exact outcome that we have seen now from these trade deals, boosted by 0.04%. Does Badenoch have any evidence to say that that's going to increase? No. Because again, she's completely useless. She has been multiple times cited by other Tory MPs as being completely useless in this job. She has not turned any heads. This is her first big ministerial position, and if anything, she has once again really failed to affirm that this global Britain, because again, that's technically what she would be in charge of, was a useful Brexit position when it has basically sent jobs out of the UK to other countries because we've signed these trade deals. And wanting to do a US trade deal would ultimately guarantee that many manufacturing and other businesses would just immediately go to the US, especially with the Inflation Reduction Act. So again, it's her own fault. It's her own inadequacies really on display here. She is not a good minister. She knows nothing about when it comes to really talking about business or trade. And she's proved that now in these commissions where you've got, oh yeah, it's only going to be, 0.04% next 15 years. Oh, well, the OBR's reports are valuable, but, things might change. Like what? What's going to change to boost that? And again, I'd like to remind you that if they want to achieve this magic number by 2030, they've got to boost exports by 3.5%. It is currently 0.1%. That is a long way to go. Badenoch has not proved that she is capable of even doing that. Bear in mind, this is someone, if she survives the next general election, is probably going to put herself forward as someone for the next leader of the Conservative Party. But to be honest, she used to have many friends, was talked about being the rising star in the Conservative Party. They ain't talking about her like that anymore. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.